Hey, all my Sagittarius friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your January 2024 monthly horoscope. These horoscopes are based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I am talking about Sagittarius and the house structure, I'm talking about Sagittarius rising. If you don't know your rising sign, you'll want to go to one of the free birth calculators on the internet. You just need your exact time of birth and your location to determine that information. These are also based on the Pacific time zone. So if you're not in the Pacific, please adjust for your location. They are also, one more piece of information, applicable to Sagittarius moon, Sagittarius sun, as well as Sagittarius stelliums. And here's an example of a Sagittarius stellium on the first day of the year, with Venus, Mercury, and Mars being personal planets, all in the sign of Sagittarius. So let's jump in and let's talk about this. Mercury has been retrograde for the last 3 weeks of 2023, and this will be, it's been stationing at 22 degrees for a few days now. And this here to me is a significant Mercury retrograde because it is going through some points within the sign of Sagittarius that are significant. There's something called the Shapley cluster, and it consists, 2 of its 4 points are in the Sagittarius energy. The galactic center at 27 degrees, 16 minutes of Sagittarius. And then we have something called the Great Attractor at 14 degrees, 21 minutes Sagittarius. If you have personal planets near these 2 points, this is significant and indicates a soul's intention for a broader experience here on the planet, one that is inclusive to all. It's more of a broad collective consciousness intention than maybe just a personal journey and karmic intention. I hope that made sense. If you have any planets, as I said, personal planets within 3 to 5 degrees of the galactic center, that would be 24 degrees of Sagittarius to 2 degrees of Capricorn, this is significant for you. The galactic center is a point where we can access the quantum fields that provide downloads, informations, inspirations, solutions, upgrades, and help support our awareness as we move forward through life. So this is important because Mercury will have gone over this point 3 times before it moves back into Capricorn. So the first time, before it went retrograde, it went over that point, then it retrograded back over it, and then it will go back again. And the third time for me is always sort of where everything coagulates, where it starts to make sense to me. And I feel like because Mercury is in fall in Sagittarius, where Mercury can feel not exactly respected or valued. Now Mercury is starting to rewrite that story as it garnishes information and applies that information. And here we see Mars on the first day of the year conjunct the galactic center. So this is about bravery. It's about understanding maybe any anger, resentment, and how that energy either distracts from what I want or could potentially even fuel me into action, because Mars is about to move into its exaltation. And when a planet is in its exaltation, it's in its second highest vibration next to its rulership. So it's a welcomed guest. The Capricorn has been preparing for Mars's entry, getting all the, the red carpet out and the nice china out, preparing for this meeting. So I think this is very important. And I think that it gives us an opportunity to start to root in and build upon the information we garnished during the end of 2023. Let's move on to the 4th, where Mars is at 0 degrees of Capricorn. This is significant because it is also on the world axis. The 0 degree of the cardinal signs is the world axis, and this gives this even more energy, more oomph. And I think it's important because here, I believe this is where Mars is starting to apply, structure. Mars usually wants to just blow through something, gets an idea and shoots its way through it. But when it's in Capricorn, it becomes a more seasoned warrior. It is integrating its experiences, and rather than reacting as it would in its youth, it's a more sage energy, a more, intentional energy. And when we look at the energy of Capricorn, we're looking at the energy of agriculture, of building. Saturn ruled the golden age. And I think this is important because Mars is going into this sign and in many ways rewriting his public image. The natural 10th house is the public, where the public sees us. Now for Sagittarius, this is your second house. So this will be where you start to apply your skills and you apply your talents and your gifts. And you start to build upon that, giving the world an opportunity to benefit from your talents. I also want to bring up that Venus is within orb of the great attractor. The great attractor is where we apply the knowledge we've gained through the galactic center and the supergalactic center. And it represents inclusion, drawing others in and making them feel honored. And as when I say honored, I mean as peers, like we're excited for their energy to learn and experience the diversity. It is very much about embracing diversity. So as Venus, the planet that not only rules our money, but rules our self-worth, approaches that 14th degree, she's going to be more and more embracing what she has learned and applying it and starting to trust her skills, trust her own inner knowing and ability to make money. The orb on the great attractor is a larger orb. It's 5 to 12 degrees. So any planets, personal planets that you may have between 29 degrees of Scorpio and 26 degrees of Sagittarius will be, this will be an important part of your natal chart. The closer the orb, or the tighter the orb, the more intense the energy, and the looser the orb, it's felt a little bit less. And because this is in your first house, it's very much representing you and how you feel about you and you moving your story forward. Now we see Mars as it enters Capricorn is making a beautiful sextile to Saturn. And oftentimes astrologers will talk about these two planets being opposite, Saturn wanting to slow things down and Mars wanting to just bolt through things as quickly as possible. But to me, it's like, I feel like this is the Karate Kid, where Mars is more like Daniel and Saturn is more like Mr. Miyagi, and teaching Mars how to pace himself so that he can be more efficient in his actions and adopt that hero energy. I also think that with Saturn moving through Pisces, while we wouldn't naturally think that this would be comfortable for Saturn, I think this is where Saturn is really rooting in his spiritual beliefs, starting to apply the divine laws of the universe, the law of attraction, the law of ebb and flow, the law of compensation. And in doing so, we're starting to feel more powerful in our co-creation. We're also seeing Mars coming into a trine with Jupiter. And Jupiter is Sagittarius's ruling planet, represents not only wealth and expansion and foreign people, foreign travel, foreign ideas, philosophy. It rules the Supreme Court. It rules religion. It also rules business and commerce and publishing and marketing and branding. And so we're living in a world where everything is marketing and branding, influencers. So I really want to encourage my Sagittarius to take advantage of this trine, because this trine is growing. So as I am brave, and as I'm willing to actually look at whatever has potentially pissed me off or made me angry and ask, does the focus on that serve me, or am I better served focusing in on where I want to go? Because as we experience this, I feel like this fifth degree, which is the Leo degree, is about following my heart, not necessarily following my annoyance. Now let's go to the 11th, where we're going to have a new moon. Let me just move the time here. That new moon is at 3:57 a.m. Pacific time. And this is the third new moon, I believe, if I remember correctly, at the 20th degree. And I think this is significant because the 20th degree is the Scorpio degree. of transformation. Scorpio, while it rules some very challenging things like death, criminal behavior, aberrated sex, it also rules great intimacy. It rules money in a way that is flowing, money that billionaires, it rules billionaires. So when we're willing to look at the psychological imprint, and I don't mean try to figure out where it came from, not trying to re-examine my childhood and figure out why my parents did what they did, but rather using that point of reference, like a rear view mirror in a car. Okay, so this happened to me, and then looking into the windshield, where do I want to go with it? This is about planting those seeds. We see this new moon in Capricorn. Capricorn rules history. It rules old age. It rules the wise wisdom, the wisdom we garnish through history. So this new moon, while it is squaring the nodes, this one here in Libra, and Libra is your 11th house. So here we're actually seeing the Sagittarius wheel. This is the Sagittarius first house. This may ask you to be egoless in how you are initially perceived by others. If you're basing what you're building on how other people will respond to it, then you're not in alignment with your dreams. You're more in alignment with your fear, because this square is a tense moment between what might be expected of me, where I've been cooperative, where I've created peace, fostered diplomacy, fostered cooperation, and now this new moon is asking me, what do you want for you? There's that north node in Aries, the sign of the self. The sign of Mars rules Aries, and we just saw Mars is exalted in Capricorn and traveling through Capricorn right now, even though it's not up on the wheel, because I'm focusing in on this new moon, because I think that this, when you think about it, as you stretch for what it is you want, your own personal creativity, the fifth house is about personal pleasure. It's about entertainment. It's about hobbies. It's the clown, the child, the performer. It's also where children are conceived. So as you stretch for this individuality, you actually, I think, are serving a bigger picture. And that to me is evidenced by this trine to Uranus in your sixth house of work. It's also the house of mental health. I think of it as stress from work creates mental health. Pisces is also very much considered a mental health sign, but because of the mercurial aspect here, I can't help but associate the sixth house with mental stress. Virgo naturally ruling sixth house and Mercury ruling Virgo. So while Uranus is retrograde, it is retrograde at the Libra degree. So this new moon is an opportunity to plant seeds for your own personal goals, dreams, wishes. And on some level, realizing that as you do that, that the people that you love, that you have fostered cooperation for, will understand as you get that endeavor more deeply rooted into your physical experience. All right, let's go now to, I'm going to put this back to noon. And we're going to go to the 13th when Mercury enters Capricorn. So Mercury will enter Capricorn a little bit later in the day. And we see here Venus is conjunct the great attractor. And she has been throughout that new moon. So that's another thing I should have probably brought up. But Venus, again, about our money, about our self-worth, about our skills, our beauty. This is a really wonderful time to start to take I want to say methodical steps to pace myself as I really connect with what am I feeling, what am I thinking, what is my self-talk as I endeavor something. I was speaking to a friend yesterday, and she said, well, okay, I'm just going to let the universe provide. And I had to say, but you're saying that based in fear. I said, you have to align that the universe will provide. So as you spend money and you know that money is a flow, then you will feel more of the flow as you acknowledge your own emotional body when you're endeavoring any sort of financial activity. So Mercury's going to move into Capricorn and become maybe a little bit more practical, a little more somber, a little more rooted in the 3D world. And so some of the ideas that it was inspired by in Sagittarius moving into Capricorn may turn into, oh, well, how am I going to do that? And as Mercury moves into a trine with a more close trine to Jupiter, and also becomes in trine to Eris, Mars's little sister, standing up for what she wants, willing to fight for what she believes in, I think there's going to be more clarity. I almost feel like this is a series of baton passes where Sagittarius gets an inspired idea, you take action on it, and then there's a lull where the universe then takes the baton and moves the story forward before there's another inspired action. Okay, now we see on the 19th, I think this is going to be a rather significant day on the world stage, or I should say a significant few days. Here we see the sun and Pluto in the very last minutes of Capricorn. And I don't know, this just hits me as something happens and I just feel like I'm watching television and I see headlines. And it may have something to do with world leaders. Pluto rules what is unseen, what is hidden, rules toxicity. And here the sun is, putting an illumination on that. We also see the 29th degree, which is the Leo degree. And I think for some reason this reads leadership to me. So this is important. I also think we see Venus here on the 19th approaching that galactic center. So to me, this is again where I have an opportunity to sit in meditation in connection with the divine and garnish information. And that information will very much feel as if it's about standing up for myself and for my dreams, regardless of what's going on in the outside world. Okay, then we see, now we're going to feel this for a few days, as I said, but as we move to the next day, the sun has moved into Aquarius. And this changes the energy. It gets a little more rebellious. It gets a little more intentional about wanting to be liberated from anything where it's felt constrained or where it's felt restricted. And again, here's Venus, she's got another day before she's actually on the galactic center. So you could literally be having wild dreams. I don't know why I want to put it that way, but it feels a little bit that way. I think I might be thinking that because of the sextile between Jupiter and Saturn. But I very much think that you're going to be getting information that seems lofty a little bit. But at the same time, I feel like if you ask Spirit to give you a material confirmation that how you're interpreting this information is correct and how they're sending it, you will get that. Excuse me. All right. And then on the 21st, Pluto enters Aquarius. We felt this energy briefly in 2023, and now Pluto is going in for a 20-year stint. Pluto will dip its toe just briefly back into Capricorn 29 degrees later in this year, but primarily we're starting to feel this planet of transformation in a planet of liberation or a sign of liberation. And it's going to be something that we're going to continue to feel. And we're going to see a jump in technology as well. Not immediately, but I think by the time Uranus moves into Gemini, we will have technologies birthed that will change the way we do our lives, just the way that the cell phones changed our lives in the 90s. All right. And then on the 23rd, Venus will have made her way into Capricorn. Now, Venus is here on the world axis. Again, this is always going to be whenever a planet crosses over the 0 degree of a cardinal sign, it is a real birthing. And here, well, I think Venus is a little more serious. She's, she wants to roll up her sleeves. She wants to use her talents. She wants to sing out loud and to be recognized for her talents. And here she's ready to build. And I believe here that Mercury and Mars are continuing to have a conversation about, is my mind aligned to my dreams? Am I focused on my old story or am I focused on where I want to go? I love this arrow that comes out of the Mars symbol because it always is like, look to the future, look ahead rather than allowing your anger to drag you back into your past. Venus will begin at this time to enjoy a trine between Jupiter. And again, as we get closer, she moves further and further into Capricorn. This will get tighter. So as she allows for the expansion, as she dreams bigger, as she, thinks about how do I want to brand myself? How do I want to brand my product, my services? How do I want to show up for myself in the world? The stars will support that. Then we go on to a full moon in Leo on the 25th. I'm going to change the time here. It's going to be at 9:53 a.m. And I think this is another, I think these points are significant when we pay attention to them, not that they're happening to us, but that they're offering us an environment that is serving us, that is allowing our expansion. Because I think that this full moon at this Leo degree is, to me right now, with the sun being in Aquarius, and Leo being the sign of my personal pleasure, my joy, my romance, my conception of children. Now I feel like somehow I'm feeling the forward motion, but I'm not seeing it in the outside world. Hence the quincunx to Venus and the quincunx to Saturn. So Saturn can rule our fears, can rule feeling repressed. Venus here is again my skills in Capricorn. Am I sure? Am I not sure? And she's really kind of being tasked to be trusting her heart versus what she can see within the light of day. I also think that there is going to be the potential for and Venus is actually in trine now to Jupiter. And while Jupiter is technically squaring the moon, I think that this is where, if you're birthing something, if you're birthing a business, if you're expanding in some way, this full moon is tasking you to trust your inner knowing versus what you see on the outside. And that is a big jump when you start to trust that inner knowing versus what you see with your eyes, smell with your nose, hear with your ears, etc. It really is a very powerful point for co-creation, because this trine to Jupiter is palatable, and this sextile to Saturn is saying stay the course and there will be reward. All right, now let's go on to the 27th. I'm going to put this back to noon. And here we're going to see Uranus direct having a trine with Mercury. And Mars conjunct. This is super, super powerful, because while we're continuing to see this push-pull between, do I acquiesce to where I've been, to being cooperative, even if it doesn't make me feel good, or I'm not getting to, birth my story the way I want to, or do I push forward for myself, for what I want? Do I pioneer out into that territory where I've never been before? This is your fifth house of creativity. And we see a conjunction to Chiron. And I full-heartedly believe that as you endure this uncomfortable square, that Uranus will support it, and then the wound transforms to the gift. This 17 degree up here between Mars and Mercury is the Leo degree. My heart, my courage, and I'm being tasked to align my mind and my actions with where I want to be and how I will revolutionize myself moving forward. And what I want to say is, this moving forward is, the soul never dies. The soul is eternal. So this becomes a series of choices about, do I acquiesce to a human structure that doesn't feel comfortable for me, or do I stretch into something that is actually feels out of this world and could put me potentially in as an outcast? Like, I'm a weirdo. People aren't going to respond to how I'm approaching things, but at the same time, you're approaching things from the divine laws of the universe. So you're actually a teacher, which is what Sagittarius represents also, the shaman. All right. So now let's just quickly go to the last day of the month. And this is where we're still seeing Pluto at that 0 degree. So this is really very strong energy of a new birth. We see Mercury is in the last degrees of its sojourn through Capricorn, and Venus is here at the 10th degree, making a really nice aspect to Jupiter. So she's been having this conversation with Jupiter for a while, and Jupiter's been continuing to say, have faith in yourself, have faith in what you're growing, and trust. Oops, I'm sorry, I meant to hit the other button. Have trust in your inner talents, in your inner knowing, in who and what you are, rather than what you can see with your eyes. I think this is it's a strong setup for the year 2024. 2023 was a lot about introspection, reflection. It had a very Libra energy where it was asking me to look at my life from an intellectual place of being fair, to transform my disruptions into divine wisdom. And here, this is really an 8 year. And an 8 years not only represents a sign of Scorpio that's very transformational, but it also represents an opportunity for great wealth. And this is wealth materially as well as spiritually and emotionally. And yet we as individuals get to call that forth and be accountable and responsible for our awareness, AKA our consciousness, AKA our focus. All right, my Sagittarius friends, that's it for me for January 2024. Happy New Year. May the new year see blessings upon you. And if you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe button, the notification bell, share this video, and join me Sunday mornings live at 11 a.m. Pacific time. That's where we pull a tarot card and we do an angel spread to get the angel's advice for traversing the week ahead's transits. And if you'd like to book a reading with me, I am available. My information is below in the description. You can either order an astrology reading or an angel reading. Just reach out to me and I'll send you all the pertinent information and rates. All right, Sagittarius, I'll see you in February. Have a wonderful January. Peace out.